Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast. And as always, I try to have going conversations with fabulous people so they can get their story out there so that you can learn from it, be inspired by it, and connect with them. And so today I have the one and only Don Wilson. What's up, Don? How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I appreciate you taking time to jump on here and kind of share your story and have a conversation. I like to have these conversations with people because I believe that when you start asking questions, you learn some of those right things that people are consistent in, and I think other people can take that who are maybe trying to achieve some of the same wins that you have already had in your life or you're going after. They can learn from it and apply those things. And so first of all, let's just start out and you just give me your 120-second story.
Okay, wow. Okay, so I am originally from good old Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Edmond, Oklahoma. I went to University of Oklahoma, got my degree in political science. I think like most people, I got a degree and was kind of confused as to how to use it. During my last year, I decided that I was going to move to LA after graduating to pursue my passion, which at the time was acting. Did that, moved to LA, was there for about 5 years. And it was a wonderful experience, but show business is not for the faint at heart.
Yeah.
Especially when there's a recession. So I decided to go.
So wait a second. When you were in LA during that time, was that the last recession? When was that?
Yes. So that was so I was in LA from 2005 to 2010.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an interesting time to say the least.
For sure.
But,
for sure.
Yeah, so I decided to go back to school once I kind of figured out that acting probably wasn't going to be my long-term plan.
Yeah.
And I decided to move to London to pursue my graduate degree. I got my MBA from London South Bank. And then that kind of started the journey as to where I am now in terms of working in tech. So once I finished my MBA, the UK had a post-study work visa program where it allowed you to work in the UK for any employer without having to be sponsored by that employer. So it was good for 2 years. So I took advantage of that, started working for a startup tech company and kind of worked my way up. I started like at an intern level position, just something to, get my foot in the door, kind of worked my way up to inside sales after a bit, and then transitioned to full kind of like field sales, business development with another company after that. And so it kind of struck my desire in sales, and that's currently what I do now. I moved back to the States in 2016, sorry, after being in the UK for 6 years, where I still do business development for a software company. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I think that was 120 seconds.
Well,
I'm not sure.
You may have went over a little bit, so I'm not gonna hold that. No,
my bad.
It's so fine. I just kind of say that just to say it, actually. But so I'm listening to all this. Like when you were a child, like did you ever imagine like you would be doing any of this? And what was maybe some of your aspirations when you were a kid?
I think when I was a kid, I wanted to do something where I felt accomplished and I felt that I could be proud of. Obviously, you kind of go through different phases, as in that little spiel that I just gave. There was quite a few different things that I wanted to do that I went after. But I knew that one of the things that I always was consistent was if I had something that I was interested in, I always went towards it 120%. And I think I knew that was going to be in whatever I decided to do. Yeah. It may change. It has changed, but yeah.
So you like that? You were like that when you were a kid too? Like when you were after something, you
Yeah.
would go all. Well, give us something that when you were a kid, like
Oh my
you
goodness.
were like,
So
oh
I
my goodness.
was. So I think one of the things as a kid, I was one that was always curious about things. Whether it was, hey mom, I want to do cheerleading. Hey, I want to do play volleyball. I want to do basketball. I want to do acting. I want to do swimming. And thankfully, my mom was crazy enough to at least let me try a
Yeah,
lot of these
yeah,
things. And I was one of those kids that once I tried it, 9 times out of 10, I didn't like it, or I just wasn't good at it.
yeah,
So it was on to the next thing. But it's about self-discovery, right? You don't know what you're good
for
at or
sure.
what you're passionate about until you actually try it. So
Now,
yeah.
do you find yourself encouraging people to go after it because you've learned from going after it that that's kind of how you discover the things that you want to do in life? Do you find yourself having that conversation with a lot of people?
Absolutely, because one thing that I think a lot of us do is we get stuck in our comfort zone, and fear is one of the things that kind of stops people from doing a lot of things. And I have been afraid every step of my journey, and I've just learned to just kind of throw myself into being uncomfortable because I'm not the only person that feels that way. Everybody who's great at something started by being uncomfortable and started by feeling like they were way in over their heads.
Yeah,
That's just how things are. So once you kind of get conditioned to thinking that and being okay with that, yeah, I always tell people, go after it. Like, don't let fear stop you. Do it fearfully.
yeah, for sure. Because you leaving college to go to LA, like,
Yeah.
what in the world was that like? Like, how scared were you in doing that? And like, did you just like figure it out? Did you go with a game
Yeah.
plan or anything?
Some of that has to do with just being young and naive, right? You don't even know what the bad side of that could be because you're just optimistic. You're just full of dreams.
Yeah,
But I think, again, going back to having supportive parents, one thing that my dad said, because it was either go to law school or go to LA. And for, any dad in their right mind, as my dad was, he was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? But he said something to me that really stuck to me. He said, you know what? You don't want to live your life full of regrets. Worst thing happened, it doesn't work out, you can still come back and go to law school. And him saying that was like his way of giving me his blessing. And I was like, he's right. Like, just do it.
yeah.
So, yeah, I was terrified, but a big part of me was just naive and ignorant at the same time. But I think in your early 20s, that's the time to be naive and ignorant.
What is the thing that you think you learned most while you were in LA?
I think I learned to have a lot of confidence. No one will believe in you the way that you believe in yourself, and to always, how do I say this in a, perception is reality. And again, it's like certain quotes that people have said throughout my life that have really stuck with me. And I remember one time me and my girlfriend was trying to get into this party, and it was like a list kind of party, and we wanted to sneak in,
Yeah.
And one of the security guys, he was like, people don't know who you are. If you walk in there like you are somebody, they'll believe that you're somebody. And that has always stuck with me as well.
Wow,
Like,
that's
just be
good.
confident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. Yeah, that's so true. You know, I live in a small community in Oklahoma, just about 30 minutes north of Oklahoma City. And one of the things that when people want to move to a town, they go based on typically like the education system and things of that nature. And I always tell people like, it's not so much Guthrie has a bad education, it's just the way people perceive it to be because of the story. And so therefore they don't even move. They don't even give it a chance to really find out. But now it's like, we just got to act like we got a great education. We start telling that story and then people are going to believe it, and you got to create your story for yourself, I think, and help people perceive you to be a certain person who you want to be.
Right.
That's cool.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
who was the biggest star that you met when you were in LA? Now this is 100 years ago.
I know.
Like,
Like,
yeah,
it shows my age.
yeah.
I'm like, ooh, this is.
Like they're not
Hold
even
on a
famous no
minute.
more.
Well, at the time,
At the
now
time,
they're like D-list.
yeah.
I met some really cool people. So let me just say, I did a lot of background extra work, right?
Okay.
As an aspiring actor.
Yes, yes.
So being on the set, you do meet a lot of people like Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow. I met Terrence Howard. Who else? Met Heavy D. Met. I know.
D.
See, that. I know, right? I'm just trying to think. Yeah, because it has been a minute.
What set were you on when you met Heavy D?
So I did some background work for what was the Eddie Murphy movie where he was like the little alien in the heads, Meet Dave or something like that.
Oh.
And Heavy D came on set to visit. I guess he was visiting Eddie Murphy.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he came on set, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's legit. That's legit. Now, you were in LA at some point. You decided like this thing is not going to work. You know, whatever that looked like. And so now you're like, what's next? And you decide to go get your MBA overseas.
Yeah.
Like, how did you even come? How do you go from LA to I'm going to get my MBA in London?
Okay. So, well, I wanted to phase out of acting. And at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a political science degree. I did that degree because, one, I was interested in politics, and two, I thought I was going to go to law school. Now I'm not doing either one of those things.
Are you still interested in politics?
Well, watching it. But so I was thinking, so what do I do? And I realized that I needed to kind of reset. So I decided to go back to school. Before deciding to go study abroad, I had gone to London with some girlfriends on a trip. Loved the city. And I was like, oh, and me being me, I've always loved the idea of living in a different country. When I was a sophomore in college, I did a student exchange program in Mexico, and I loved it. Another experience where I was so like out of my element, but I loved it. So it gave me a little bit of a taste of what that was like. So I was on a tour of UCLA's business school. They had like an open day for people who wanted to possibly get their MBA there. And they mentioned that they had a semester where you could go to London to as an exchange student. And I was thinking, I was like, why wouldn't I just be able to just go there and do my degree at a UK university? So I looked into it, and I figured that it wasn't going to be as difficult as I thought it was going to be. And financially, it worked out. So I said, again, why not? What is there to lose? So
what now? MBA over there versus the MBA over here, is this essentially the same degree? Like, are you learning some of the same things?
Yeah, you learn some of the same things. I think it's just shorter. So there, it's 1.5 years. Here, it's 2 years. So it was kind of cheaper, especially if I was looking at schools in the Southern California area.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So thinking about a college student right now who's about to graduate, even though times are crazy, but let's say in a different scenario, would you suggest for them to go ahead and make that type of journey, or would you say stay in state and get your MBA?
I would say go 1,000%.
Yeah.
If you have, and I tell anybody, if you have the opportunity to work or study abroad, take it. Like I said, worst thing, you go, you experience it, and you don't like it. At least you know that you don't like it and why you don't. Instead of living a life of, man, I should have done that. That's like the worst thing to me, is to live and look back and be like, man, I should have done that. I should have done that. When it's something that you wanted to do at the time, but maybe fear held you back.
Yeah.
If you can do it, do it.
For sure, for sure. What is the what's the one thing that you probably would say are some takeaways from your journey over there in London?
Ooh, I feel like I became an adult in London. I became a woman.
Oh, you became a woman, and
I became a woman.
You begin to have your own thoughts and opinions, or were you, what made you become an adult?
Because I feel like when I was in LA, I was, I was from Oklahoma. There was a lot I didn't know, so it was a lot of like second guessing, and that's part of being in your 20s as well. You're just confused.
Yeah.
You're just trying to figure out who am I? Who do I want to be? And I think when I was in London, it was like, right, this is who I am. I like who I am. Let me make sure I keep that and also grow. So being in a different culture, it was picking parts of that culture that I like, that would now be part of me, and also maintaining parts of me from Oklahoma, parts of me from LA, and all kind of meshing those things together. But yeah, I think, just in terms of that, this is going to sound silly, but being in London, that was my first time having a full-time office job where I had to wake up and go in the office 8 to 5. And that was the experience, being in a place where I had to start from scratch again, making friends, but, in a different country, all of that stuff, learning how to shop getting different stuff, toilet tissue, laundry detergent. What do you get? They don't have the same brands. So it's just so much new stuff that I had to do and be me at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. For sure. Now, while you were there talking about that 8 to 5 that you got, you said that you began to work for a startup. So meaning like how far along were they, and what were some things that you...
startup was the startup.
It was a startup?
No, so yeah, it was a startup, but they had gone through their first their first round of funding.
Okay.
So it was so the startup was it was an online like personalization for retailers, so e-commerce, and it had some of the most like brightest, well-educated, posh, if you will, employees in one office that I've ever been a part of. But it was like the creme de la creme.
Yeah. And
they had, obviously, they were not hurting for money because their parents and all their investors and connections, they had a lot of cash. But it was an experience because the CEOs were about my age. Which blew my mind, but it made me realize that there is no special skill or knowledge that you need to run a company that's successful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What was it though about them that helped them at that age be successful? Like what were some things that, and maybe it's not even about age, but what were some things that you saw them doing that you like, oh, okay, that's why they're winning?
The guts to do it.
Okay.
The guts to do it. And, there's a certain kind of level of, I guess, confidence, arrogance, resourcefulness that you have to have. And I imagine growing up the way that they grew up, one of the guys, he was wealthy. He came from a family. He lived in Knightsbridge. If anyone's familiar with London, he said his corner store was Harrods. Okay, so that right there is like, what? But it's once if you surround yourself with a lot of people who are taking risk and being successful, it's almost by nature you're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of brought up in that environment.
Yeah. So was some of what allowed them to be successful too is who they put around them, like to do things that they couldn't? Like did they do
Absolutely.
a lot of that? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things that they were very good at was attracting top talent. And it wasn't because of the money that they were getting paid. It was that perception. We're doing something cool. They had a great story to tell in terms of, who founded the company and all of that kind of stuff. I won't maybe give too much away, but they had a great story to tell. And again, going back to that perception, is reality, right? If you make it seem like we're doing great things, we're doing big things, and you attach some big names to it, maybe names that you're not necessarily they're not a client, but someone who allows you to use their name in their logo. Yeah. You know what I mean? Again, perception. Yeah. So they were really good at getting really top talent because they provided they had the image, they had the culture of it. So
that's crazy. So that's a tech company, and you were working sales at that time? Or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I started
Go ahead. Uh-huh. No, go ahead.
I started kind of like an intern level. They were opening up an office in the U.S., and they needed someone basically just to extract a lot of data from online retailers, both in the U.K. and the U.S. And so I was like, I'll do it. I get paid, I'll do it. So yeah, that's how I started working with the company.
And so
the bottom,
and worked your way up to the top. Started at the bottom. Well,
I don't know about the top. A little higher.
You moved up some. So, working in the tech industry, I guess that was essentially your first real job, was what you said, like your 8 to 5.
Yeah.
And kind of going into sales, and then you're still in the tech industry, correct? Like once you transitioned out of London back to America, you stayed in tech and sales, and is that what you wanted to do, or why did you decide to do that?
I think for me, if I was going to have an 8 to 5 where I have to go into the office, sales is the only role that I could probably handle.
Why is that?
I like that it's every day is different. You have a hard set goal that you need to reach. Obviously, the financial component to that as well, working in sales, and you get a bit of autonomy. It can get stressful at times, but I like to think that I can manage stress pretty well. But I just like it. I'm a bit competitive, so that works, and I love working with people. So I like talking to people. Obviously, when you're dealing with prospects, meeting them face to face, it just suits my personality.
So would you say that there's a difference between if you're selling something for $5 or $20 million? Like what would you say would be the approach to that? What would be different? And I ask that because my son currently, he wants to resell, and so he sold his first video game for $5, which is more so putting it on eBay or whatever the case may be. But like his approach to doing something like that versus going out and selling something for 20 million, 30 million. I don't, have you found that there's a difference in the approach, and what would that be?
Yeah, I think, I guess the fundamental part of sales is the same, right? Solving a problem. Someone has a need, you have the solution. That is the basic thing of it, whether it's $5 or 20 million. I think the way you go about maybe proving out that value to the prospect is going to be different. So with a $20 million deal, it's going to be more strategic, right? It's going to take more time. It's going to more people you have to talk to, more resources that you have to dedicate to it. So it's but you have to know that going into it. And I think that's what the beauty of sales is. You can start small. You can start with the $5 with the goal of, hey, in my career at some point I want to get to where I'm closing $20 million deals. But don't take for granted the lessons and the things that you learn selling things for $5, right? That will help you get to the 20 million.
And I think that's oftentimes like you'll see an entrepreneur and they be like, I used to set up lemonade stands when I was a kid, and they always give that credit to that to where they're at now. And I I think that's the case of really just
Yep.
understanding those basic principles, and then kind of moving into the $20 million deal, whatever the case may be, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of human psychology, a buying decision. Some people take spending $5 very seriously,
Yeah, yeah. It kind of
what I
depends.
mean?
Kind of
So,
depends on where you're at in life, you know.
yeah, exactly. So you can't take that for granted.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
usually if you're selling something for $5, that person's money. If you're selling something for $20 million, maybe if it's B2B, that's that corporation's money. So it's a little bit different, maybe not as emotional, but yeah, it all kind of works together.
Yeah, works together.
Yeah.
So, in the current conditions of life, more people are working from home, and I
Yeah.
know that you've been working from home for the last 4 years in your current
Hmm.
role in the United States, moving back over to America. What is it that you have enjoyed most about working at home versus working 8 to 5 and showing up to clock in every day?
Oh, where do I begin? Oh my goodness, there's so many things. Okay, overall, I will say to me, it's just a better quality of life. Now, for me, everybody's different. So I'll just say, I'll put that out there. However, I think one of the biggest things is flexibility. So our office hours are 8 to 5. Um, I can wake up at 7:30. Heck, I can wake up at 7:45.
Hmm.
So that means I get more rest, which is important to me. If I have to run an errand, I don't have to feel like, oh, is it going to be okay with my boss or whoever. I have the freedom to do that. I can schedule my day according to what's best for obviously the business, but also for me as well. I like autonomy. I don't like to be micromanaged. And working from home gives you that. And yeah, so the flexibility I think is the best thing. I'm a bit of a loner, so I am okay working and being by myself. Some people, they need the office environment. They need kind of that random chit chat with their colleagues. So some people don't like that part of working from home. You don't have that, and that is an aspect that you have to kind of consider. But there's ways around that.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. What are some tips that you would say to someone who's starting to work from home who's never done it before? What are some things that you think you can provide them to help them make that transition?
Yeah, and I think now with what's going on, a lot of people have been kind of thrown into working from home,
Yeah.
and they haven't had a lot of time to like really, wrap their head around it, get their space in order for it. And I think the first thing I would say is take a minute and kind of ease your way into it. Set up. First thing I would say is pick a designated spot where that's your little corner where you are going to work. And then also talk to your colleagues about how they're doing it. Uh, I think everyone's situation is different. Some people are working from home and they're coming from like maybe a call center environment. Some people are working from home. They come from like an open space, open plan. But people are having to work from home, and their days look different. So talk to your colleagues about how what's working best for them. I think is good. Communication and have a designated space. Those are the two things I would start off with.
You do believe that you should have a designated space.
I think to start off with,
Okay.
I think if you have a space that you start your day, hey, I'm going to be at the kitchen table and that's where I'm going to start my day. Now, where you kind of wander off to during the day that's fine. But I think, especially if you live with other people, it's good to have some, because if you have like your laptop, if you have, notebook and some other stuff that you need, um, you want to be able to know where to find it in the beginning of the day, right?
Yeah.
So it's just have a designated space for all of your things for work, and you start your day there.
Yeah.
I start mine with some coffee, um, and that's how I get in work mode. I don't stay in that space all day, but I know this is my workstation.
Yeah. Now, do you have any other routines that kind of help you with working productively from home?
So one thing that I used to do when times were different, is I would like go to the coffee shop. I'm a person, I like change. I don't like things too routine. So I would go to the coffee shop. I would go to the library, depending on how my day was. Like if I had days where I had a lot of calls, maybe I would just stay at home. I wouldn't go to the library. But any other routines that I do, um, I would say kind of no. One thing too, I travel. I used to travel quite a bit, so I didn't really have a clear routine because I could be gone for days, or it was just
Yeah.
you kind of have to you go with the flow with how
Yeah.
my schedule is. But I think if some people like routines, then it's good to have a routine and have it. Hey, this is what my day is going to look like, Monday through Friday.
Yeah. 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 Cool. Well, yeah. So how has the current way of life been for you in your workplace?
Well, it's a little tense. I think for everybody's job. In terms of like, no one knows. We none of us know kind of how long this is going to last, or what to expect. Obviously, I worked from home, so that part has pretty much been the same.
Yeah.
Me corresponding with, I think I have to be. One thing is, because I work from home, or anyone else who has worked from home before, prior to this, be mindful that people that you're working with and other people may not have always worked from home. So there's a lot of adjustments that they have to do that maybe you didn't have to do. And
Yeah.
just to be mindful about that, be more flexible, be more patient, because it's changing for everybody. Maybe not for me in some aspects, but not all about me.
Yeah. That's cool. Now, one of the things that I try to do, and I think you're probably utilizing your phone right now, right? Are you doing this Skype call via your phone?
Yes, sir.
But no. Go ahead. You can leave it there. I was going to ask you, what are some of your favorite apps? What apps do you have on your home screen? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes. So I have Reddit. I love Reddit.
Really, Reddit. Is that the the news feed? Like it gives you just random
Yeah,
stuff. People jump in there
yeah,
and leave. Like, what do you love
yes.
about Reddit? Like,
Random
what?
stuff. Oh my God. So the comments in Reddit just be off
Okay,
the chain.
that's
You be
what you
thinking
going
like, how
for.
do people? Yeah. So I like Reddit. I like obviously YouTube. I probably watch way too much YouTube.
What are you watching on YouTube? Who are some of your favorite YouTubers?
Any and everything. um, so, um, yeah. What'd you say? Who are some of my favorite YouTubers?
Yeah,
You, of course.
yeah. I like that plug. Go subscribe. Go subscribe. And Hetty Coleman on YouTube. If you watching this, you need to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hopefully, I'm only interviewing Angela. Hopefully, she give me a couple of new subscribers. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and my YouTube channel is Don Wilson.
Don Wilson on YouTube.
So I actually, who are some of my favorite? I like Meet Kevin. He's kind of like a real estate, financial YouTuber. I love his videos. He's really smart, really sharp. Who else? I like. Oh goodness! Now my mind is drawing blank. I don't know, but I kind of I love David Icke. He's a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I love that. But yeah, so those are a couple of the ones that I watch religiously.
All right, what else you got on your home screen?
Okay, what else do I have? So one of the things that I'm doing now, given this, we don't have much of a social life, couch to 10K. So that is starting to, work my way up to running 10K. So I just downloaded that app about a week or so ago.
Have you started using it?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you up to
I
now?
like it.
Does it start off with minutes, right? Like having you run for so many minutes versus miles. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like intervals. So you walk, run, run. And so it had like a little questionnaire, and it said, okay, based on the information you gave, we're gonna put you at week 3. I was like, wait.
Whoa!
I need to start on the couch. I need to start on the couch. Well, so
I need to start on the couch.
I like the app because you can play your own music and still have the cues.
Okay,
which, so you don't have to worry about having a playlist with the cues in there. So that's cool. And then Audible, I love audiobooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people who be like, yeah, I read 40 books this year and all of them are on Audible? Like, did you really read it if you listen to it? People be cracking me. Like, man, I read 100 books. I'm like, how in the world you read 100 books?
No. See, I will admit, okay, I'm not a reader. Okay. I'll read news and stuff like that on my phone.
Reddit.
Obviously. But in terms of a book, if I'm reading a book, I'm probably gonna go to sleep. Okay, so I gotta do. You gotta know yourself.
That's good.
That's not the most flattering thing to say about myself, but I know me.
Yeah.
So I don't say I read 40 books. I say I listened to.
I listened to 90 books this year.
And then one thing that I have to do when I'm listening to books is, because I have a short attention span, so sometimes the book is on, but I'm not listening to it.
Yeah.
And see, that doesn't count.
No.
So then it's like, okay, go back, rewind the chapter, because you didn't catch any of that.
Yeah.
But I like Audible though. I think it's the next best thing. If I'm not gonna pick up a book and read, just listen to it. Maybe I'll retain some of it.
Yeah. Now, do you have a favorite podcast app? Like, what's your go-to app for podcasts? Do you listen to podcasts?
I don't. You know what? I need to get into podcasts, and some of the podcasts that I actually listen to are on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So then I'm not like, because I need to, like, Spotify. I know they have a lot of podcasts on there. So I need to get more into some of the podcasts that aren't on YouTube.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any that you like other than your own?
God.
You just plugging your podcast, your YouTube channel.
I just listen to my own stuff. That's all. No, so I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk. He has a bad mouth though. Just FYI. I listen to some social media podcast is teaching you about social media stuff, analytics, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Design Matters with Debbie Millman. I listen to her. So I got a few. I recently Joe Rogan, who's super famous podcaster.
I know.
I try to listen to some of his, but like some of that stuff's like I have no interest in that. But I listen to podcasts. I probably say I listen right now in life. Probably listen to more podcasts than read books, because I just find it very interesting to learn from people who've actually done, like just listening to them tell their story versus reading it. So
and it's more current,
Yeah.
So it's it's kind of like real time. So cool. I have to check some of those out.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'll send you my list. I'll send you my list of podcasts I'll listen to.
Exactly. I feel like it's personal when you ask somebody, so what's your podcast? It tells a lot about somebody, doesn't it?
What's your podcast? It does. Let me look. Now that you said, let me look at this. I'm getting old. You see, I gotta go like this for my phone now. My eyes are. Wait a sec. Let me see. Who
Do
am
you
I?
have it on the big text?
No,
Let
I'm
me
not.
see
I
how.
refuse. I refuse. So I listen to What Works, which is a lot of that is around just kind of talking about building brand and things like that. Social
Yeah.
media marketing, that creative life is really good. Get Together, which is talking about community building again. Um,
Mhm.
Kevin Rose, who's he's invested in a lot of companies like Twitter and things of that nature. How
Okay.
They Built This is an NPR podcast. So Tim Ferriss is a good. Open Mike is a local guy. So some of the things that I listen.
Mhm.
Yep, yep,
Well,
yep,
so
yep.
you have a pretty extensive list there.
Now, since you're in tech, do you watch any tech YouTubers?
Tech YouTubers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not be able to tell you their names.
Okay.
But you know, the one of the guys that's quite good. Oh, he does the videos with Benji from It's Judy's Life. I don't know if you know. You
No, I
like
don't.
wait, no,
No,
okay.
I have no.
Anyway,
I don't have a clue
I
who
like
you.
his videos.
Yeah, you lost me. You
But you
lost.
know, here's the thing about YouTube is that once you watch a video, then some of the recommendations and stuff pops
Yep.
up on your
Uh huh.
home screen.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I just see somebody, I'm like, I recognize them. Oh, that's a topic, and I don't even think to look at exactly what the name is.
Yeah.
I know the face and I know the type of content that they put out, which is not good. So I need to be better at that for when people ask me questions like you just did.
Well, cool, cool, cool. Well, Don, thank you so much for hanging out with me and letting me pick your brain and ask you questions that I hope others can learn from and be inspired by and connect with you. So, what what is last question? One more question. What's Austin like without Southwest? How do you say it? South by Southwest not
South by
happening.
Southwest. Oh, it was, actually, a lot of people still came.
What?
Obviously, it wasn't on the level of South by Southwest, but it was a lot more people out than I thought. Given that people were advised to stay home, one, and two, the the conference and festival was canceled. But yeah, it was a lot more quiet. I think a lot of locals were probably happy because it was
Yeah.
wasn't as much
Did it
traffic and
take over?
craziness. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Austin has been quite chill this whole time. A lot of people running and walking, and yeah, I mean, I live quite on a busy street. Still a lot of traffic out there.
So
I don't know.
are you all on the what do they call it? Safe home or whatever?
Shelter. Yeah,
Self shade
yeah.
or whatever. So are y'all locked in? It's supposed to be
Hmm.
not grocery stores, restaurants and all that. Well, grocery stores are open, but restaurants and bars and
I think restaurants are still open. I think they're doing delivery, and I don't know if they're doing drive-through. The other day they were still doing drive-throughs.
okay.
Um, but yeah, everything's shut down.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so we'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
see.
Well,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much, Don, for spending some time with me. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, as always, go win.